The thing that's most encouraging is just seeing how well the car is working now across a range of corner speeds. You know, around that track, it didn't really have any obvious weaknesses.
Hi, I'm Miles and I'm back with Shov to answer your questions about the British Grand Prix. What an incredible race weekend, one that will live rent-free in the hearts of the British public for years to come. We have been on the podium 4 times in a row, with 2 of them being back-to-back wins. Tell me, Shov, how does the team feel, and what was going through your mind during those last final 10 laps?
Well, the first question, I mean, the team is absolutely delighted, and having seen George take the win in Austria, for Lewis to get it at the British Grand Prix was fantastic. Obviously disappointing that we couldn't have George there on the podium, but as you say, 2 wins in a row is brilliant. There's a lot of energy in the team at the moment. We've been working hard for months, but now you can start to see the sort of fruits of that work. And there's more to do. We know that Lando's particularly quick. We know Max is particularly quick. We'd like to try and get ahead of them, and we've got a bit to do. But as I said, lots of energy and lots of determination to get there. How did I feel in the last few laps? That was quite difficult. I started to relax a little bit with about 3 or 4 to go, because you could see that Max didn't really have the pace to cut into Lewis's lead enough to actually catch him. But when you saw him on a different tyre, the first couple of times he put in, that tyre was working well. We know that they've got a very quick car, and it was a bit worrying, because after all of the decisions through all the laps of the race, to have lost it in the final moments would have been really horrible. But yeah, just great that we were able to hang on in there.
A question from our fans on LinkedIn. Did we lose a lot of performance in the crossover period around lap 16? And was that because we weren't able to manage our tyre temperatures as well as the McLaren?
I mean, that period of the race was the one bit where we didn't look competitive, and you saw both McLarens coming by. It is linked to tyre temperature, and the difference between us and them, maybe it was that we had a bit more wear on ours, so you've got less rubber. And when you lose the rubber, the temperature of the tyre falls. But then when you throw in a bit of rain, suddenly it cools them down, and you can actually drop out of the window altogether. So there was a brief period where we were really struggling for grip. We got going again, but as you say, it is all linked to temperature and possibly just an indication of who had the most rubber at that crucial phase.
We were strong all weekend. At FP3, we set the fastest times. Quali, we locked out the front row, but what happened to George's car? Such a shame he couldn't finish.
I mean, unfortunately, we knew that we had an issue relatively early in the race. So we were tracking this from the first stint. We didn't know that it was going to be terminal, but it's all linked to a leak that was in the water system that was causing the pressure to start to drift. And ultimately, when we stopped the car, it was to protect the power unit. So we knew that we were never going to finish the race. What you don't want to do is finish the race and destroy the power unit. Then you'll be looking at a penalty possibly later in the year. So it was preventative, but there was no way that we were going to get to the checkered flag.
Question from Weibo. Let's imagine George didn't retire from the race. With his pace, would he have been able to finish on the podium or even win? With
a race like that, with the changing conditions, it's quite hard to say this is where we would have finished. If it had been a dry race, start to finish, looking at how George got off the line, how he was able to build a gap, I think he would have had a pretty straightforward afternoon. But if you take the point where we actually decided to retire the car, we were on intermediates, George was in P4, he was closing in on Max, so that was looking good. And to get him on the podium, he would have probably had to overtake Max at that point, realistically, because we called the stop lap correct with Lewis when we went to dry tyres. So I think earlier it might have been a bit too damp. So as I said, minimum of P4, but there would have been a shot at it if he could have passed Max on track on the Inter.
And a lot happened on that Sunday, but let's just rewind back to the Saturday with George's pole lap and the Mercedes lockout. How did that feel?
Obviously, a really big deal getting a front row lockout at one of our home Grand Prix with 2 British drivers as well. So that was great to see. And we've got so many of the team were there watching. We've got such great support from our fans there. So that was a really special day. But the thing that's most encouraging is just seeing how well the car is working now across a range of corner speeds. You know, around that track, it didn't really have any obvious weaknesses. And also you could see how much the drivers are enjoying driving a car that they can trust to, you know, really commit to that qualifying lap. So it's taken a little while to get there, but a lot of progress, and nice to see the results of that with that 1-2 finish on Saturday in qualifying.
Lap 38, we put on a set of used soft tyres. Now, question from YouTube. Did we have a set of hard tyres available for the final stint? And did you think it would be better considering Max's pace at the end?
We did have a set of hard tyres. When we were fitting them, we didn't know that it was going to be as good as it was. So the hard tyre was the right tyre to be on at that part of the race. You saw how strong it was with Max. The big thing, though, that influenced us was we were trying to do an undercut on Lando. We're transitioning on a track that's just on the edge of being damp, just moving to dry. And our thinking was just that the soft tyre was going to give us the best warm-up, the best chance of making ground on Lando on the outlap to try and take the lead. What we hadn't really expected was the hard to be so good, and you could see that Max was able to close us down in those final stages. But luckily, we had enough breathing room to stay ahead until the checkered flag when it matters.
And from Weibo, it was a British Grand Prix with classic British weather, and we wouldn't have it any other way. How did the rain change over the course of the race, and how difficult did it make your decisions, or that crucial call of when to change the tyres when only parts of the track were wet?
Well, there were certainly some difficult calls during the race, but one of the hardest was that period where the right thing to do was to stay out on slick tyres, even though it was raining, because if you came in for inters, it wasn't quite wet enough, you'd destroy them. And then what do? You've got to then either go onto a slick or another inter. So that was the most challenging bit. But we have got a rain radar, and here it was quite easy to see the rain coming in. So we knew when that shower was going to start. From the radar, you get a pretty good idea of how heavy it's going to be. And over the course of the weekend, luckily, we'd had lots of other rain showers. So you kind of know what they're like, and we knew what we were going to expect. So our guidance to the drivers was that the first shower was probably going to be one that they're just going to have to ride it out, cope with a couple of tricky laps. But then later we could see that there was a proper wet period coming. It was going to last a while, and that was the point that we brought them both in. That was also where we did the double stack, which was great because we managed to get both cars in and out of the pits without losing any time. Had we sent one round, we would have dropped another 5-10 seconds even, because it was getting so difficult on the dry tyres. It was, you know, you had to be on inters at that point.
How special was this Lewis victory, especially this being his last British Grand Prix with the team, and after 945 days? And how much does this victory boost the team's confidence?
You know, it was a massively important result. We said at the start of this year we were determined to go out on a high with Lewis. He's been such a huge part of the team's history. So to have not got some more wins with him would have been upsetting, but just brilliant to see him up there. Yes, you know, it's a huge boost to the mood around here and everyone's motivation, because it's been so hard work and because it was such a tough start to the year. And I think for Lewis's own confidence and, you know, mood in the car, you can see that he's really enjoying it now. So that was great to see. Hopefully there's more wins to come this season, though. We're not happy with 2. We want to go after more. So we're still working hard. We've got performance to come, trying to bring that to the car as quickly as we can. It won't be easy, but we will be pushing all the way.